We are good to go, so I will just start off introduction. Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is Ben, Pumpkin Forest. We're doing a recording here, the very unusual thing. We are doing D&D Magic the Gathering set, Adventuring in the Forgotten Realms. With me here, we've got Marcos.
Hi.
Hi, he's from Missing Novice. Twitter.
Twitch.tv/Missing Novice. I also am on Twitter, but mostly I'm on Twitter.
Then we got Trevor.
Yo!
Okay, you can plug yourself.
I'm on way too many things. The more relevant for this, the Difficulty Class podcast, which is about D&D. I'm the community manager for for Idle Champions, so that's also relevant.
Oh, cool.
Okay, and Shane.
Hey everybody, I'm Cool Boy Shane. I'm on YouTube. I animate a Dungeons & Dragons cartoon. I also make some music, and I have a podcast called Podcasts and Players where I interview people in the YouTuber D&D community.
Awesome. So, today we are here to talk about the Dungeons & Dragons Magic set. And so we're just going to be going through some of the cards and talking about our thoughts on it. We have already played a little bit of the set because I think it came out, the full release. It's been out only for a week.
Yeah, about a week or two at this point.
Pre-release was last Friday, so.
Yeah.
Okay. So the first thing I want to talk about is the venturing in the dungeon mechanic.
Love it.
Okay.
Sorry, spoilers.
I thought it was going to be one of the biggest pain in the butts because it's like, there's you got 3 cards. First off, only 3. Only 3. But then when you see okay, every single game which uses venturing in the dungeon, you have to have every single card because each of them are options. If they had 6 or 7, it's you would have been bringing that stack to every single game. It would have been kind of annoying to try and figure out which one you had to do.
But still, I would have loved 6 or 7.
I'm
Too many cards.
I'm waiting for Secret Lair Legends of the Hidden Temple and Secret Lair Enter the Gungeon to give us some new dungeon cards. But until then...
Legend of the Hidden Temple would be amazing.
I don't know what would happen when you get to the Shrine of the Silver Monkey, but some shit has to happen.
Yeah.
That would be its own card in the set. You enter the Shrine of the Silver Monkey.
Oh my gosh.
It's neat. I actually haven't gotten a chance to do much venturing because I've done 2 pre-release decks and I wound up not getting enough venture stuff to make it a theme in the deck. And then we did our draft and I got a bunch of venture things, but then Nick played the most OP card in the entire set. Keen-Eyed Sentry.
Keen-Eyed Sentry. You can
most OP card ever.
It is specifically designed to screw over people who are only playing in that set.
Oh, it's the one where you can only venture once
per turn.
Yeah.
What a terrible, terrible thing to do. I really like the venturing mechanic. It was one that when it got announced, I went, that's perfect. It's thematic, but also not too far out of the realm of what Magic the Gathering has done. And I love that it's got options because I've played many venturing cards where I'm just okay, do I want to help myself out or be a dick?
But anyway, one of the other things is that when we were actually going to the set, they thought... A lot of people, myself included, thought they're going to bring back the party mechanic.
It's so weird that that's not here.
You know, the other thing that I find, not weird, it makes sense, but, slightly annoying, the set's called Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. There is a mechanic called Adventure, literally released, a year ago or so. None of those cards are in this set either.
Yep.
It should be called Ventures in the Forgotten Realms. Apostrophe Ventures in the Forgotten Realms. It's different.
It seems like they were flirting with the idea of becoming more like tabletop RPGs with those types of things. They never quite committed to any of it. And finally they're oh, fine, I guess we'll do a fusion of the 2 things. But then they're well, we already did these things. We have to do something new now. Dungeons, okay, we haven't done that yet.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad that they didn't bring back the party system because it was so noodly. You had to get one of each.
Yeah.
And in addition, if you had a party, it would just make the other ones cheaper. And in addition, the wizard stuff would only do things for wizards, and the fighter stuff or the warrior stuff would only do stuff for fighters, and the rogue stuff would only do stuff for other rogues. So they they didn't even want you to put all of them together in a singular deck.
Yeah,
That's fair.
I will say, I mean, this set at least gave you a lot of pieces for a party deck if you do want to make a party deck.
That's
you can
true,
Still,
yeah.
You still can run like a general Tazri deck and then primarily trick it out with stuff from Adventures in the Forgotten Realms if you wanted to. Also, are we...
You guys can keep talking.
How much should we be talking as if the audience understands how to play Magic the Gathering? Because I know your audience is primarily Dungeons and Dragons.
I think we can.
Crossover. Here's a cool thing that might help. I just looked at all of the cards like 2 hours ago. I'm still kind of reacting blindly to a lot of this. So since we're talking about the dungeon mechanic, why don't we actually kind of go through on what it actually is and how it works in game? Because I'm still not clear on that.
Do you want me to do that one? Yeah. Okay. So essentially, the way that the dungeons work is there is a mechanic called venturing, and that's what we were talking about with that very annoying card that lets you venture once per turn.
Which card Magic the Gathering? Wizards needs to ban it. It's too powerful.
Okay, I'm back.
And the way the venturing works is that different things will be like, when this creature attacks, venture into the dungeon. Whenever you draw a card, venture into the dungeon. And then usually in parentheses next to it says, when you venture, either go into the first room of a new dungeon or continue into the next one. And they actually made specific token cards for these dungeons. That the three are Tomb of Annihilation, Lost Mines of Fendelver, and Mad Mage's Dungeon. And each of them do something different in different ways. Like, the shortest one is Tomb of Annihilation, but it messes both you and your opponent up. The longest one, I think, is Mad Mage's Dungeon.
And there's just a lot of different neat benefits along the way, too. So
Yeah.
Plus one.
I'm actually looking at all three of them. The Tomb of Annihilation gets you a 4/4.
That's right. That's what
creature
that
at the
is.
end, Yeah.
Yeah.
Mad Mage, it lets you scry a lot and draw cards or create like tokens, and at the end you could draw 3 cards, reveal them, cast one without paying its mana cost.
That's what
it's
it
kind
is.
of
Yeah,
nice
yeah,
to
yeah.
have in any deck.
So one of the other things that we found out is that it's like if you have a deck specifically tailored to venturing the dungeon, you tend to prefer like Mad Mage because it's like, this one like later at the end it has better
It
stuff.
depends on what you're going for, because there is like Barrowin of Clan Under.
Yep.
She's like when she's a commander that you can run, and she has an ability that cares about if you've completed a dungeon, and then nothing, and then like after that.
Yeah, so she might be fine with you just
She'd
going
be
through
fine with
Play-Doh.
doing the Tomb of Annihilation, especially since her ability lets you get stuff back from the graveyard. So when you go through Tomb of Annihilation, it makes you sacrifice shit, but her ability can let you bring it back, so it's less of an issue
one of them
with you.
is a land.
Yeah.
You have to sacrifice a land
It sucks,
on the shortest
but like
path.
it is like if you want to try and turn her ability on as fast as possible, you could do Tomb of Annihilation.
No,
You
can keep going.
I was just gonna say because it depends on what deck you're running, because it does feel like some of the venture cards want you to venture a lot and like care more about the benefits you get while you're in the dungeon, but there are a lot of cards in the set that also care about how many dungeons you've completed. And if you're running those, Dungeon of the Mad Mage is the worst one to go through because Dungeon of the Mad Mage is the longest to get through.
Yeah, and I am the same way where it's like, it's Tomb of Annihilation, that's fine, and then it's like the one land, it's like, I can get my creatures back. Creatures die all the time, but lands, I need those.
Just play Crucible of Worlds.
Oh,
It's the
God.
most budget card ever. Just go play yourself a Crucible of Worlds.
Crucible of Worlds. I even, whenever I play like just a proxy of it, just they immediately know.
Yeah.
Just immediately gets deleted.
I mean, to be fair, you play a Gitrog deck.
Okay, all right, that's just
So
it was more
it's justified.
for like.
So I have a question then. Let's say you complete a dungeon and then you play another card that says venture. Can you play the same dungeon multiple times?
Yes. Another interesting thing is if you would venture into the dungeon while a dungeon's ability is already on the stack, you still go into a new dungeon. So theoretically,
in the old
you
one.
can venture into a dungeon without the final ability ever triggering, as long as you continue to venture while it's on the stack. It's
Yeah, that makes sense.
which can matter because a couple of them like have you like draw cards and stuff. and if you can like infinitely venture, and if you have the ability to stack the triggers correctly, I think there's like a specific way you're supposed to do it. You aren't gonna deck yourself out, but you can like drain your opponents forever.
I'm also imagining this like nested dungeon within a dungeon.
Yeah.
In the Lost Mine of Vandover, there's also the yawning portal.
That just reminds me of how you can have like a dinosaur pilot a helicopter, and have that helicopter pilot a submarine, and have that submarine pilot a train, and have that train pilot an airship. Like, it's magic's weird when you start thinking too hard about the mechanics.
I've seen that Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we're going to talk about some of the new cards that came out and some of the reactions. And one in particular is it was discovered that there may be a potentially broken combo with the Book of Exalted. Potentially broken.
To be fair, they banned it specifically in Standard 2021, which is only an arena format. It's like a format where you're going to play on arena only with the cards that are going to be from New Standard. And so for people who don't play Magic, there's a certain number of sets, like the most recent sets, that are considered standard. So like official Wizards tournaments primarily focus on those. So, you know, hypothetically, if you're getting into the game now, you don't have to worry about buying cards from 20 years ago. And theoretically, that's better, but it's not always. But anyway, point being, and we'll talk about I suppose Ben wants to talk about the combo.
Real quick, I want to address that person who Marcos addressed as the person who doesn't play Magic and has gotten this far into the episode. I don't know who you are, but good for you.
Yeah. True.
We're good at explaining Magic.
Yeah.
Anyway, now you can know how Magic works.
But why don't you read what that Exalted book thing is?
The Book of Exalted Deeds. It's 3 white. At the beginning of your end step, if you gain 3 or more life, you make a 3/3 white angel creature token with flying. That sounds great. That's great. I don't see anything.
There's some more text.
There's
some more text.
Pay 3 and tap. Exile the Book of Exalted Deeds. Put an enlightenment counter on target angel. It gains... You can't lose the game, and your opponents can't win the game. Activate only as a sorcery. It's only a sorcery, you guys.
Now the thing is, like, this is not an unprecedented ability for those who haven't played Magic before. Yeah. There is something called Platinum Angel, which is like a 7-drop 4/4 angel that has that ability on it. And it's like not even the only creature I think that has ever been printed that has that sort of ability. But when something is a creature, it's pretty easy to deal with. Now let's talk about Faceless Haven. This is a land card that can turn into a creature of any creature type, including Angel, but only until end of turn. So if you turn this land into a creature, then use the Book of Exalted Deeds on it, then it turns back into a land, now it's stuck as a land. So it still has that counter that makes you not lose the game, and opponents not win the game, but now someone has to have an answer for a land card. And if they're playing a color that doesn't have those types of answers in it, well, that's it.
That's why it was specifically banned in Future Standard, because right now there are cards in Standard that destroy lands. They're not super heavily played, but once the combo starts being popular, people will probably put those into their sideboards and be like, I gotta watch out for this. Future Standard has 0 answers for that. So...
Well, that we know of.
But the idea is that the Arena one is only the cards we know of right now. Theoretically, when Standard rotates and Innistrad comes out, they might have land destruction. I'd assume... Like, I'd actually put money on it that they would, because they printed this. They have to have known.
But say that.
Yeah, true.
I don't think they intended this to be a land thing.
So here's the thing. Like, I think that this stuff is hilarious and amazing. One of my friends was playing with this card in Arena, and so was his opponent. And essentially, we got to... There we go. Essentially, what happened was he sends an image to our Discord. He has negative 3,200 and something health, and his opponent has positive 4,300 and something health. They had both played this, and they had both done you cannot win and you cannot lose. So... 5 hours later, essentially what had ended up happening with Arena is because of all of the things that were on the field and the massive army and the massive amount of things going off, his opponent had done a stack so big in response to something he did, it timed him out and he lost. That was the only way that the game ended, is because a stack went too long.
So how does that work? Does it like, oh, okay, you haven't like done any registering, so it times out, so it just like kicks you from the game?
Essentially, that's what it was. It put a timer up. He couldn't cast a spell because the stack was going. And it was like, all right, well, I guess that's it.
While we're talking about the Book of Exalted Deeds, do you guys also know that they've already errata'd one of the cards in the set?
Oh, no. Which one?
They errata'd Delina.
Oh, yeah.
They errata'd...
Really?
So her ability is when she attacks, you roll a d20, and if you get above... you copy a creature, and if you get above, like, a 15, I think it is, you copy that creature... And you roll again.
Mm-hmm. That's the 20.
You copy, it's like a 15 to 20. It's a range. It's not a crit. Wow. It's not a crit. So like you always copy the creature at least once, but if you roll higher than the 15, you copy again. They errata'd her, so her ability is now a May ability because it was not before. And the issue is you could copy Pixie Guide, which is the creature that gives you advantage.
Yep.
And there is a point that if you copy Pixie Guide so many times, it becomes almost mathematically impossible that you will not get the and roll again thing. But the issue is, it is technically possible. So the game does not pull you into like a draw for having an infinite combo because it technically isn't infinite.
Yeah.
So they had to errata that because otherwise you are trapped in dice rolling hell forever and there's no way out.
That thing is, though, like, going off of that card, though, the dice rolling mechanic in this set, I love. I love the fact that a non-spin down D20 is now important to Magic the Gathering.
Not just D20. Cards. The commander decks include like D8s and D4s.
Oh, do they really?
Yes.
Oh my god.
The commander decks added in non-D20s. The standard ones only did D20s, presumably to keep it easy.
I love that.
Also, before we stop talking about the Platinum Angel thing, I recently found out that there is a rule in Magic that specifies that the Platinum Angel effect cannot stop you from losing the game due to outside of the game effects. Because apparently at some tournament, some judge was trying to disqualify a guy for slow play, and he was like, no, I have Platinum Angel out.
That's so good.
So
that's cute, Judge. My Platinum Angel says
I can't
so they
lose,
literally had to write it into the rules that doesn't stop you from losing the game.
Oh, there was another thing that I heard about that as well, that apparently the Enlightenment counter is like, the text is on the card itself, not on the counter. So if you have an effect that removes the counter, it still has that effect.
Yeah.
So even if you have a counter removal thing, it still is on the card technically.
It is really weird that they do it that way, because Promise of Loyalty does that too. It's a board wipe that says you give creatures, everybody chooses one creature to get a loyalty counter, and it stays alive and survives the board wipe, but can't attack you. Mm-hmm. And part of me was like, wow, I could fuck over someone playing the Ozolith, which is the thing that says whenever a creature leaves the battlefield, you move the counters to the Ozolith, and then it moves all those counters onto another creature later. And I was like, I could fuck them over, because the thing they move the counters on would never be able to attack me. But it's not tied to the counter, it's on the card. So I'm like, what's the point of there being a counter in the first place if it's meaningless?
just to piss you off.
Yeah.
I think they didn't write it clearly enough, because I think rules as intended, they wanted the counter to be the thing that confers that ability, but then they didn't write it right, so they kind of screwed themselves.
Okay. The next thing we're going to talk about is the Precon Decks. What do you guys think about the Precon Decks?
So this is the commander ones, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Commander Precon.
Yeah, because they didn't do any just normal Precon decks for this.
Yeah, they've started a trend of with every set they release Precons, but most sets only have two, and they're like, I want to say quote unquote lower power. They aren't actually lower power. All the Precons are still pretty comparable, but it's just the two they've been releasing regularly have been primarily reprints. They've had some new cards, but not that many.
That's disappointing.
Whereas the ones for Forgotten Realms and the ones for Strixhaven were like the old style of Precons where they had a whole bunch of new cards in there, so they cost more because they actually put more dev time into them. So, I bought two of them.
I did too.
Taken a couple pieces out, but I haven't actually played specifically with the deck. So,
I got the so which ones do we got here? So let's go through them and like what colors and their names and
First
stuff.
one is we have Galea, Kindler of Hope, is white, green, blue, and she is sort of a equipment aura tribal because she can play equipment and auras off the top of the deck, and if equipment comes on the board through that ability, you can immediately equip it to something for free. Then you've got Rondus, Rage of Ancients, who is kind of looks like a little bit of Dragon Tribal. He's Gruul, red, green, and whenever he takes damage, or whenever you roll one or more dice, you can have him do 1 damage to himself, and whenever he takes damage, he makes a 5/4 red dragon.
I got that deck.
Which, when this creature deals damage, sacrifice it. Then you have Sephris of the Hidden Ways, white, blue, black, and she's kind of the adventuring in the dungeon. Whenever you complete a dungeon, you can get a creature from the graveyard into the battlefield, and then whenever a creature goes to the graveyard, you venture into the dungeon.
It only activates once each turn, though.
Yeah, once each turn.
Which is a thing to keep in mind when you're playing.
Oh, okay.
Then you have Prosper, Tomebound. He's a 1/4. He's Rakdos or black-red. At the beginning of your end step, exile the top card of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you can play that card. And Pact Boon, whenever you play a card from exile, create a treasure token. So he exiles stuff, and whenever you play an exile, you make treasure.
I gotta say this real quick. This set is where I'm coming back into Magic. Like, I've been out of Magic for quite a bit, and like last time I was playing Magic, treasures were there, sort of, and so to come back is just like, why? There's so much shit with treasure now.
I know.
Sorry, I don't know if I can curse.
No, no, you can curse. It's my audience doesn't give a fuck.
Okay. Yeah, like I was very confused. I'm like, there's so many things now and past with treasure. That's wild.
It's because they realize it's a good way to give other colors the ability to ramp without, like, making them good at ramping necessarily. Because treasures are a good way, but they're temporary.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I understand that the idea is that some color, like green, ramping is primarily green's thing, but then the issue becomes like commander's a really popular format, so you want to make sure that all the colors can compete because some decks won't be able to run green. So treasures are a good way to make like an agnostic way of ramping your way up, but it's not as good as some of the other ways that you can.
It was kind of like...
I was going to also say, also because they're tokens, there's a lot of ways to deal with zero cost tokens that can just like wipe them all really quick, so you'd have to like pop them immediately, and then maybe you have nothing to play, so you're like, well, all my treasure that I ran for is gone. So it's really not nearly as good as like pulling lands from your deck and stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's
but
like
that's why it's great. Like
yeah. Actually, one of the interesting things I was seeing when I was playing drafts was that people were drafting non-standard colors in their decks because they knew they were going to have enough treasure tokens. So it's like, I'm running green cards and blue cards, and it's like a 5-color deck, but I don't have those kinds of lands because I know I'm going to be getting treasure tokens to play the stuff that I need.
That's wild. I love that.
Yeah. So it's like, I'm playing a Gruul deck, but I'm running, a counterspell or something like that because I know I have treasure tokens and can just spend it on the blue to counter it.
It's fun to play draft and be reminded that I'm not stuck to a specific color combination. I play commander primarily. So like I can actually run hybrid mana cards and nobody's gonna tell me no.
Yeah. But anyway, of the 4, I'll just start with the one that I know the most about, was Sephris of the Hidden Ways. Because we've actually played this deck quite a lot. This is the most D&D themed one, because it has venturing. Its commander does venture. That's what she does. Mm-hmm. Like the Gruul and a lot of the other ones, you could kind of port them into another setting. Or like, use stuff from the other sets. She specifically is for venturing in the dungeon. And it's when we played it, we really liked it because it's like, okay, you're putting these creatures in the graveyard and it procs her ability, and you can do it on your opponent's turns to proc it even more, and then that causes you to play a dungeon, you can pull it back out. So it's this like graveyard recursion thing where she's kind of in a pain in the butt to deal with because she keeps sending things to the graveyard and then she just pulls them back out again.
So I will be honest, I haven't looked too in depth into these because I got 2 coming. They're coming tomorrow. I'm very excited. Mm-hmm. I might do a stream where I open them like, but the one thing that I knew that made me instantly pre-order the green red one was Clouth was in it.
Oh yeah.
And again, like, I was out of Magic game for a while. This pulled me back in because D&D, it's my thing. And Marcos was even saying, I said on one of my shows, I'm like, why isn't Clouth a card? And I don't even know what he does. Read to me what he does.
Okay.
That's how excited I am.
No.
I saw Clouth, I bought it.
So here's the thing. Clouth is one of my favorite cards from the set from what he does.
Oh, God.
So basically, he attacks. He costs 7 mana. He's flying haste. Whenever he attacks, you add X mana in any combination of colors, where X is the total power of the attacking creatures. Spend this mana only to cast spells. Until end of turn, you don't lose this mana as steps and phases and ends. So you attack with 10 power creature, you get 10 mana. So to, like, punch things.
So I've made 2 commander decks so far. So I brought the Gruul one, I bought this one, and then I bought the Rakdos one. And I put Clouth and I pulled old Gnawbone. She does something similar where when she deals damage, you make treasures equal to the damage. So I put both of them in the decks. I'm like, yeah, dragons, big mana. I'm cool with this.
I just realized that we were explaining mechanics, then we keep saying Gruul and Rakdos.
Yeah.
Let's go to the colors. So Gruul is red-green, Rakdos is black-red. And it has to do with Ravnica stuff. Don't worry about it. It happens later.
Yeah. Once you start playing for a while, like, there's a bajillion names and they're all hard to remember, but once you start playing for a while, you'll slowly get it, because if you're playing a black-red deck, there's going to be like 20 cards in it that are all Rakdos insert thing here, and you'll remember. Like, it's because they're like the archetypical guys who care about red and black.
Yeah. But no,
and everybody might know those because this is a D&D channel,
but they might not know what
Ravnica
colors are associated with them.
True.
So I'm just...
They'll know the organizations,
God,
maybe.
Marcos, gee.
I will say, I was debating actually taking the Draconic Rage deck and making it a Dragon Tribal deck, and then I realized there's not actually a lot in the deck that makes it specifically Dragon Tribal.
Yeah.
Like, he specifically cares about Enrage and dice rolling. It doesn't actually need to do with dragons.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to take it in that direction, because I'm like, I could do that with any commander and have one that might be better for it.
Mm-hmm. So, last one I want to talk about is Galea, Kindler of Hope. Because I hate this commander.
Glad to know I pre-ordered that one.
I know the least about this one, though. I do, from what I understand, I think this one has the most expensive reprints. So I still think it's good that you ordered it.
I'll be honest. Again, like the other deck, I found out the Holy Avenger was in it, and I went, well, I want that card, so I bought it.
Yeah.
The thing is, I play a ton of Equipment and Aura decks, so I kind of burned out on it, I guess, a little bit. But it's also, like, the thing is that she plays off the top of the deck. So you need to have a lot of cards that, like, let you organize the top of the deck. And so it's like, her thing is, normally when you play a card off the top of the deck, it's like card advantage, because it's like, ooh, you know, you're getting extra cards.
But she's got blue. There might be some scrying in there.
I'm going to have to cast, like, you know, all these blue instants and sorceries to try and manipulate the top of the deck to get, like, something on top. And then, so I'm casting cards to save myself cards.
Or you could just trust in the heart. Sorry, that's the wrong game. Sorry, wrong game.
No, Yu-Gi-Oh! The philosophy of Yu-Gi-Oh! Permeates all cards. I trust in the heart of the cards regardless of what I'm doing.
It's a religion.
I don't like Yu-Gi-Oh! The game, but I will inject the memes into anything that I possibly can.
But her big shtick is like, okay, you play an equipment off the top, you immediately get to equip it. And so the two big cards that combo with her is, one is Belt of Giant Strength, where you put it on and it costs 10 to equip, but it immediately brings her power to 10.
Oh my god.
And it's like, ooh, that's crazy. And then the other one is that there's a hammer that costs 1 to come out, and then equips for 10, and it gives her +10/+10.
No, the Colossus hammer or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like I think it's like a common or something, right? From like.
Yeah.
But there's like so many decks that try and use it, because if you can shenanigans it's really good.
Okay, the problem is a lot of the stuff doesn't give her trample. So I'm sitting there, like, sometimes you have this perfect setup and you get it out and it's like boom, boom, boom. And, turn 10, finally she's a, 23-23. And then the opponent's like, hey, deck with my 1/1. And it's like.
She doesn't have red in her color identity, which I think is the main. Like, there are green cards that give trample. There are a few of them, but it's more, I feel like there's more like stuff that gives trample in red specifically.
Yeah. But also because it's a Voltron deck, you have this one creature out, and it's like, okay, innocent blood. I'm like, or you have to get the setup. It has to be so perfect. It's got to be. She comes out 4/4. You buff her with a 10/10, buff her with another 10/10 thing, give her double strike, make her hex proof, and then also a trample thing. And then in addition, maybe you take out one person and the other two are like, Ben maybe is a problem here.
And you're always, every time we play, I'm like, you are the problem. If you're sitting in the corner,
you are what? Sorry, we're not going to get into that right now. this is a show about this set.
Every single game, when Ben is doing nothing and we ignore him, he's like, "Okay, I'm going to play Mizzix's Mastery and cast 200 cards and win the game." And I'm like, "Why didn't we murder you earlier?"
Because everyone wanted to have fun, and it's not fun to play a game when you are murdered.
But
I mean, I said as much last time. Like, you gave me that Wish Claw talisman. And you're like, who are you going to give it to? I'm like, I'm going to give it to you, Marcos, because look at who we're playing against. Do you really think you're going to win this game?
I realized
and I got attacked for it, but I mean, it worked out in the end.
I realized also Marcos is the one in a lot of our games who's kind of like the police, like, okay, just making sure, like, if someone's going to win, gotta, like, make sure they stop. Screw you, Marcos.
Snitches.
But talking about the trample thing does make me think, like, what do you guys think of the Tarask card?
I love it.
Yeah.
Ward 10.
I love it, except that it doesn't have trample. That's the one thing that would make it perfect.
That's my thing. Like, it's so weird to be like, I got my Tarask out. It's like, I'm going to have a 1/1 mirror block it. and, like, I saw somebody trying to justify it and be like, oh, it's like on flavor because in D&D it just takes a party of adventurers to distract the Tarask from its target. And I'm like, that is really reaching for why it doesn't have trample.
No, the real answer is it has Ward freaking 10.
Yeah.
If anything your opponent tries to do to it, they got to pay 10 extra mana. That's why. Putting trample on top of that would have been way too OP.
I get it, but it's also like, I don't know, I suppose, like, capturing the unkillable nature of it does make sense, but it's weird to be like, but it's also not destructive.
Yeah,
like,
does every dinosaur in that one set have trample?
Almost, yeah, I think so.
I don't think they do.
I feel like
but here's the thing about the Tarask mechanically is it's got siege weapon or whatever. Like, it destroys buildings and wrecks towns. Like, it's supposed to be this engine of destruction. And an owlbear gets trample, but the Tarask doesn't. It just feels a little weird. It feels a little lacking to me.
Yeah, I get balance-wise why it doesn't have it, but it's just the flavor.
Here's the thing. If they were like, we're only building these cards on flavor, I would have said, cool, don't do the Tarask.
Yeah.
Just don't. Like, it will become you may as well silver border that card.
It's an Eldrazi. Let's just reprint. Let's just go ahead and reprint Ulamog, and we're just gonna do the.
Wow. See, now you're bringing in lore questions to me where I'm just like, do I consider an Eldrazi more dangerous than a Tarask? Damn, I think I might.
I mean, Eldrazi like eat entire planes.
Yeah.
So
it's also funny because, like, I know Alan was super pissed off about the adult gold dragon. He's like, why is it a 4/3? It's like 3 lying squirrels could kill it.
See, oh no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I'm upset with some of the powers and toughnesses of some of the creatures. Like, Dragon Turtle has 5 toughness and 3 power, and I'm like, all right, I'm not asking for it to be super powerful, but why 5? It's a Dragon Turtle. It should have like a 7 toughness at least. You know?
Magic is one of those things where when you start thinking too hard about what creatures can kill what other creatures, it's like, okay, or not all of this makes sense.
Or even the equipment where it was like Robe of Stars, like you phase out, but it's like, but technically speaking, you have these stars and you can throw the stars. Why is that not a thing? And I'm like, look.
It's really weird, Ben. I could see you didn't push your glasses up, but I could hear you pushing your glasses up.
Good thing this is an audio podcast.
Yeah, another inconsistency, I guess you could say, is that I don't really care for. It's like Burning Hands or Cone of Cold only targets like a single creature instead of like divide this amongst a number of creatures, because it's an area of effect. It's like a cone thing, right? So you should hit like multiple things, right? The D&D nerd in me is like upset that it's not as much like D&D as I want it to be.
Oh, Magic Missile is great.
I was going to say, on the flip side, I actually really like how they made Magic Missile. And the reason that I like it is because they've said so Ward's a mechanic that they just started introducing with Strixhaven. They want to like replace hexproof because hexproof is too OP.
Yeah.
And for most intents and purposes, Ward is basically like, this creature has hexproof unless your opponent is willing to pay this fee. But mechanically, Ward says if this creature is targeted, you counter the spell. That's what Ward does. And if they are planning on making Ward way more prevalent going forward in sets, Magic Missile is actually going to be a really good spell the more and more prevalent Ward.
Yeah, because
you can't counter it, so you can hit through Ward with Magic Missile.
Wow, I didn't even think about that.
So and like that is perfectly on flavor with how Magic Missile is in the game because you can't block it. It will always hit you.
That's wild.
Do we want to talk about? We have 3 planeswalkers.
Oh yeah,
We got 4, I think. Yeah, because there's Eliwick.
Oh yeah,
Tumblestrum.
No, there's more than that.
5.
Lolth too.
Yeah, there's one. Yeah, there's one for each color.
Yeah.
Then there's Eliwick is green. Lolth is black. Bahamut, even though his name is not Bahamut, but he's freaking Bahamut.
It's the Grandmaster of Flowers. He is a Bahamut type.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the Professor Onyx situation they got going on.
Yeah. So he is white. Red is Zariel. So cool. And then blue is Mordekainen.
I will say, going into this set, I was expecting all the planeswalkers to be essentially like the wizards who have spells named after them, essentially. Because I'm like Mordekainen makes perfect sense because he is canonically a planeswalker.
Yes.
He's in Curse of Strahd. He goes everywhere.
Yeah, he literally walks the plains.
And I don't know everything about D&D lore, but I've been led to believe that a majority of the wizards who all have named spells are like on similar power levels or were in like a party with him.
Here's the logic that I have come to understand. So
they're cool.
Yeah, but they because this is still the stuff from this set is actually going to be in lore in D&D as well. Like Eliwick this is the first time we've actually seen her. However, she is going to be in Beyond the Witchlight, the set, the adventure that's coming out in the fall. The reason she is a planeswalker is because she drew from the deck of many things and got the wish spell and wished to become the greatest bard in the multiverse. So she is essentially a planeswalker now. And then the other 3 are essentially gods. Bahamut is a god, Lolth is a god, and Zariel is very, very close to be and can technically change planes. So that's their excuse in world.
I do love the touch that Tiamat is in this set and is also a god, but is not a planeswalker because she's trapped in the 9 hells.
Yes. That's okay. Tiamat's actually one that I do want to talk about, even though it's not one we scrolled by.
Oh yeah, I want to talk about her too.
So
we're kind of jumping all over the place.
Yeah, I mean it was bound to happen. Tiamat is interesting because when I first saw her, I was like, I want to build a commander deck, but I don't know if it would be very good.
Oh, yeah.
But I know a lot of people, and again, I've been out of the game for a bit, so I don't know everything. A lot of people are like, holy crap, this is a good commander. What do you all think about her?
So, when I saw her spoiled, I was disappointed because she's not the kind of commander I would play. Like, she is set up so that you win the game with a combo. She tutors you 5 cards. If you're playing Tiamat, your end goal is to summon her, get the 5 perfect dragons you need to win the game and win the game. And those dragons are like, it's Morophon and Skithrix are 2 of the ones you get, and I think Scion or the Ur-Dragon. Or maybe you just need Scion. There's like a certain combo you can get to win the game. I don't really like that. And when I was thinking of Tiamat, my brain went to, I want her to like come out here and smash things. But thinking about it, it makes sense, I guess, because she, like, having her be a more schemey kind of card makes sense. I was disappointed because it's just not my playstyle.
I get that.
Because we have a friend in our group, Alan, who is like the dragon guy, has a bunch of dragon decks and stuff, and like, oh,
He's
okay.
the Seto Kaiba of our group.
Sorry.
Actually, that is a perfect. That is a perfect description of Alan.
He's not a billionaire CEO yet.
Please do this for me. The next time y'all play against him and he does some dragon combo, please go, what have you done, Kaiba? Just please do that for me. I would really appreciate it.
You assume that I already have not spouted Yu-Gi-Oh memes at him.
No, that one specifically. Okay. That one specifically.
But yeah, I was like, oh, are you going to play Tiamat? And he's like, maybe not, because he's like, because his point was like, oh, it just tutors me for 5 dragons, but he already has stuff that lets him do that.
Yeah, he runs a Scion of the Ur-Dragon deck, and Scion already tutors for dragons.
Also,
sort of. It tutors them to the graveyard, but it's functionally it works kind of the same.
What are you gonna say?
Before we go on, I just want to ask, if Alan is the Kaiba of the group, Marcos, are you the Joey Wheeler of the group?
Oh, I needed that laugh. Oh, so good.
I mean, at least does this make Ben the Tristan then? Because, I mean, at least I'm not the Tristan.
Oh my god. That was good. That was real good.
I'm getting old. I have to look up who Tristan is.
What do you mean?
Oh my god.
Tristan
Sorry.
is,
No.
his voice
Okay.
gives him super strength.
I had to just throw that out there because I'm like, I know Alan and Marcos are always going at it.
Oh my god, my soul.
No, yeah, I think that's the
No,
main...
God damn it.
Yeah, you forgot who he was.
I forgot who he was.
Yeah, he's that character who was in the entire show but did nothing. Yeah. He dueled like twice.
That's true. That's true.
Welcome to our Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah. Welcome to the podcast within a podcast. Kind of funny fans will be used to this. I think the thing that surprised me most about Tiamat, which is why I didn't really like was that interested in her, is because I was like, oh cool, you tutor stuff, but I was like, I'm kind of surprised you don't bring stuff onto the battlefield.
No, because that's the big thing is like people who play dragons, dragon decks. It's like, oh, I can get them to my hand. I want them on the board.
Yeah,
that's the trick.
Which is what I thought too. But again, going into the whole combo thing, you pull dragons with her. One of the dragons you're going to pull is Morophon the Boundless, who is a changeling, technically a dragon. When you ETBs, you name a creature type, and creature spells of that chosen type cost Wooburg less to cast. So all 5 colors, color pips. So you next turn play Morophon, and then almost all the other dragons that you tutored for are free. So
yeah, if you got that set of cards, yeah.
Which is what I'm saying. Like, Tiamat is a combo commander. Theoretically, if you are playing with her, you are playing because you have a specific set of 5 dragons that you want to pull to win you the game.
Yeah.
Mm.
So, like, she is powerful. Yes, I wish that she would put stuff on the field, but even as she is now, she's very powerful. She's just powerful in a way that I don't like playing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because I think you had said, like, and I kind of agree with this, that you don't like cards that let you tutor a lot. Or
Yeah.
like,
Which is fun. Like, my Dragon Tribal deck is a Dragon's Approach deck, which does let me tutor, but it's really janky and shenanigansy.
Yeah.
So I like it, and you can make that deck not janky and also a combo thing. But that's not how I play it. I just want to get dragons in the field and turn them sideways.
Sometimes you have a janky combo, but because you're only allowed one copy of a certain thing, it's like, okay, I have to tutor for it. So I gotta run 10 tutors to get the one janky combo.
Like my Deck of Many Things deck, if we ever want to talk about that.
Yeah, deck of many things.
Real quick, okay.
That's Shane.
What you got any thoughts on Tiamat?
I don't really play Dragon decks, so...
All right, there you go.
No, I think to the rest of us, it's like, it's another dragon.
I hope I get her like when I crack packs, but like I don't know
From
if I'm
a
gonna use
lore
her.
reason.
Yeah. It's, like really,
Tiamat.
when I get down to brass tacks, I just want these cards because they're cool.
That's something that I've been thinking about is so the value of the cards has been dropping recently, and I get that. I'm not really a huge MTG finance guy, but I get that the price is dropping because this set is going to be opened by so many people, because so many people who aren't into Magic the Gathering are going to be opening these packs, and I'm curious what it's going to do for the price of the packs long term, because like on the one hand, the set's less powerful than what we've seen recently, and a lot of people are going to be opening it. But also, there's going to be a lot of people who want the cards just to have the cards, not because they play Magic.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious if that's going to drive up demand and still make the cards worth something, even if not everybody gets them.
Mm-hmm.
But also before we stop talking about the Planeswalkers, because we spun off from all.
Yeah,
we
we started with the
This is a running theme on this episode.
Yes, we're going to talk about. We have an outline. We don't look at it.
Yeah, we have an outline, but are acting like Discovery writers.
Yes.
Don't worry about it.
I do actually kind of like Grandmaster of Flowers and stuff, but something that I find interesting is, so they were asked if the D&D set is canon to Magic lore, and they're like, it's not currently. They've left the door open for it to become part of the Magic multiverse, And honestly, I would kind of be fine with that, because, like, they've already said that, like, Ravnica and Theros and, I assume, Strixhaven, like, they're all different versions of those planes that exist in the D&D multiverse. So I could totally see, like, the Forgotten Realms is just a plane. In this one, it's disconnected from the rest. But then that's weird to me that, like, certain gods are planeswalkers, you know? Because, like, obviously the set is not describing how they actually have sparks aside from Eliwick. So that's part of, like, I want to see this plane actually just be canon in the Magic multiverse, because I don't see a problem with that in the long term. But
for me, I just want to see another set of this.
Yeah, as long as we make it clear that, like, obviously this Forgotten Realms is a different universe than D&D Forgotten Realms, which is not too complicated for D&D players to wrap their heads around. But yeah, that's the thing that makes the Planeswalker choice a little weird to me, because it makes it a bit awkward if you want to retroactively be like, okay, this was popular enough that we want to make this canon.
Yeah.
So
Also, I like the jump because he's
It's so cute. It's so damn cute.
I hope he gets away. He's trying to escape from a thing, and he's like spraying acid, and he's very upset.
I love that it has Defender. It can't attack because it wouldn't. He's just a precious boy.
They not only did they give him a 0, they specifically gave him Defender, because I wanted to like Voltron him, like give him some equipment.
You just gotta play yourself an Arcades deck, and then you can Voltron. Yeah, Arcades, because he says all your defenders can attack him. Then you can play Flump Voltron if you really want to.
Then I can have my Flumps murdering people.
Allie's on it. I'm sure she's on it already.
Yeah. I will say another weird, like, small tangent, and I think I'm the only person who cares about this, but when they revealed Flump, they also revealed that the art cards that you get in the set boosters had the monster stat blocks on the bottom, so they showed on the back, so they showed, like, the Flump card, and you flip it over and it has the Flump stat block and stuff. And I'm like, that is so cool, that makes the art cards worth it. Not all the art cards have stat blocks on them. And I think I'm the only person who cares about this, but you revealed that as, like, a selling point. And not all of, like, I'll get a gelatinous cube stat card and it won't have the stats on the back, and I'm like, why?
Inconsistent.
I want to get the art card for the spells and get the actual spell card, because the spell cards that Wizards prints are really boring looking, and I want the fancy magic art on them.
I will agree with you. You are the only one that cares about that.
I care about very pedantic things. Come watch my stream if you want to see me complain about literally everything on the universe.
I got a few favorites.
Oh yeah, sure.
Interested. So first is, gotta be Grim Wanderer.
Yes.
2-drop Goblin Warlock, a 5/3 with Flash. But his special ability is called Tragic Backstory. You cast the spell only if a creature died this turn. And it's this like guy in all black with like these tattered robes, and he's like kind of burst open the door to a tavern, and all the people are kind of giving him this look. And it says, "There's a stillness that walks with him, the quiet that follows great tragedy, when even the mourners are too exhausted to weep." And it's like,
they're trying to be a little bit tongue in cheek with like the silliness of D&D.
Also, I would like to hire you to read all of the flavor text for my cards.
That is the funnest thing about playing D&D with Shane, is that he will narrate what is happening mechanically in game, and I love it.
So good.
Makes it a lot more interesting.
Yeah.
Another good kind of jokey card would be, and this is just mechanically good too, is Split the Party.
Yeah, yes. I love that it's such a garbage card. It is so thematically on point.
Return half the creatures they control to their owner's hands rounded up, which is very funny. I mean, yeah, you could just like send all their stuff, but it's funnier to just be like, you can keep this half, that's fine.
Yeah. I just love the flavor text is just don't.
Yes.
But I do love that, like, there are so many cards, even if you're drafting, there are so many cards you would choose over Split the Party. So it is thematically on point with the D&D adage of you never split the party, because there are so few situations in which you would actually run that card.
But I also really like that there are several cards in this set that are like that are more conceptual, where it's like you come across a river, you spot 2 goblins. Like, I love that.
Meet in a tavern. They have it, ladies and gentlemen. They have you meet in a tavern as a card.
Yes. It's so good. I love that they did stuff like that.
I love the cantrippy, the fact that they have multiple things to select.
Yes.
Yeah. I also, I will say for the Grim Wanderer, if you ever play that card against me, I need you to describe how the Grim Wanderer knew the creature that died as part of its tragic backstory, regardless of whatever you killed.
It was their parents.
Yeah. The Gotham token was its parents?
Yeah. Every single time.
My top favorite, though, this one might seem a little strange. Actually, it might be a tie. There's a tie here. The one that's not that strange is Bard class.
Yes.
The class cards are all really, really cool. Bard class is my favorite because it has to do with legendary cards. And I have a deck that's specifically geared towards legendary cards that this would fit in very well. And it's so nice, it's like I have to put it in there. Essentially, the first ability is legendary creatures you control enter the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on them, which is a kind of nice introductory thing. But then when you level it up, legendary spells you cast cost 2 less to cast, which is also really good. Only counts for colored mana, but it's still pretty great. And then the final thing, whenever you cast a legendary spell, exile the top 2 cards of your library, and then you can just play them this turn. And that's just forever. Whenever you cast a legendary spell, you can just do that. I have a Shrine deck, which those are legendary enchantments, and then there's a bunch of legendary cards in there that basically every time I'm playing something, this thing would pop off that I'd be really happy to try out. That's the sensible answer. The answer I want to go with, though, is 50 Feet of Rope. 50 Feet of Rope is maybe my favorite card in Magic the Gathering in recent history. It has 3 abilities. It's a 1-drop artifact, right? Because it's standard. You never leave home without it, right? It's like the standard thing you always have on an adventure. The first ability is called Climb Over. You just tap it, and choose a wall, can't block. You climbed over it. Great. Amazing. Thank you. So good. Precon, guess what? I climbed over you.
Your dinosaur.
All the inside references. I've
then
given
the second
them all
ability,
PTSD with my Precon deck.
Yeah.
The second ability is Tie Up. So you pay 3 and tap it, and a target creature doesn't untap until its controller's next untap type. That's kind of nice too. It's it's a bit more expensive than an Icy Manipulator, but it's an added benefit of having this card, which is cool.
I have one mini game actually in the Precon with that 50 feet of rope with the tie up, where it's they play a dragon and they swing, and then it's tie up.
Is that
for
Imrith?
real?
I'm just gonna.
Why didn't you think of that in Allie's game? Jeez.
I don't know why we didn't do that. We just needed to get some rope. We didn't need to have 2 of our giant friends die. Just could have brought some rope.
And then if you are running dungeons, the last one's Repel Down, which is 4 tap, venture into the dungeon.
Yeah. That last one is a little pricey for me for just venturing into the dungeon, but I do really love that card.
If you were gonna do a dungeon, can you do dungeon and commander?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're going to do Dungeon and Commander, this is another additional card to have then, to venture into the dungeon, because it has so much utility to it. Tie Up by itself is great in any situation. You'd be surprised how many people play walls, so Climb Over is also very good, and then Rappel Down, it would be your main mechanic, essentially, so you're trying to go down the dungeon.
I imagine they made this card, and it's there are 3 things we could do with it. It's we'll do all 3, because it's
one of the big things for making this set was they wanted to have that feel of a choose your own adventure, which is why so many cards have these options now.
Yeah.
Is because that was another aspect of D&D that they wanted to interpret into these cards. And I think they did a great job with that.
Yeah, and I'm really glad that this is the direction they went with the set, because they could have just done it's a party mechanic, or the adventure Throne of Eldraine.
Yeah.
The adventure, which I don't see anyone playing those cards
Yeah,
anymore.
I will say that the adventure mechanic in Eldraine didn't feel mechanically that much like I was going on an adventure. So
it's you played a spell and then there's a horse there.
The party mechanic in Zendikar kind of made sense, because it was you're assembling specifically a party and they help you do stuff. But even then it was a little bit weird.
Yeah.
But this makes sense. And the other thing I like is that this plus the Precon decks, Magic's definitely focused a lot more on Commander lately. You can totally run a Venture Tribal deck. And I think there's enough cards, I haven't tried it yet, but I believe there's enough cards that you probably would actually make cuts and not just run everything because there's a limited amount and you have to stuff them all in because you have so few options. I wanted to make my Quandrix deck living weapon tribal, and I realized there are not enough living weapons to make that work, so I had to have like a sub theme. But I think you could very reliably make a commander deck that's focused primarily on venturing into the dungeon. I kind of want to make it in the Dar deck, and that's only mono white, and I think I could still do it.
Yeah.
So
I mimic. That is the one I'm not as happy about, because it's just like you pay 2, you sack it for 1 mana, or something like that. You pay 2 and it becomes a 3/3. Like it's fine.
Well, yeah,
and it shouldn't have been an artifact. It should have been a. I mean, I guess they wanted it to literally mimic a treasure token.
that was the thing in it.
I feel like it should just be a colorless creature, personally, and then you could have it like pay mana for it to become a treasure token or something.
Pedantic thing that I'm bothered by is Portable Hole, because like it's.
Why can't I suffocate my opponents?
No, actually, no. Opposite of that. So Portable Hole specifically exiles it's artifact, enchantment, or creature. I think with a certain CMC. I forget the exact thing. So
I think it's 2 or less.
It's trying to mimic the whole like you use it as a Looney Tunes pit trap, but it's like maybe it's just our party. I've never seen the Portable Hole used that way. It's almost always just we're gonna store a bathtub in here and some other shit to bring it with us. Like it's always used like proactively by the party and not as like a weapon, which is how it's used in the game.
I've had Portable Hole used in 2 instances in my game. One of them was to literally throw it out underneath a group of people and they fall into it. Yeah. But then the other one was a backup plan when they fought Tiamat. They're like, all right, either we kill her or we throw the Bag of Holding in the Portable Hole.
I will say, there is a card called Bag of Holding in this game, set, and also it has existed, and you can't exile the Portable Hole inside the Bag of Holding.
I would have
right? Like
I would have ended every one of my games happily if it was like exile both these cards at the same time, you lose the game. I would lose every game on purpose like that because I love that.
Yeah. Just saying, I get why it doesn't do that mechanically, but I'm just saying it should.
Any other cards that are standing out for you all?
One other that I can think of. Skeletal Swarming makes skeletons cool again.
Oh, that's a black. Let's see.
It's a black green. It's a multicolor.
Oh, black green. Oh, I remember that one. Yeah, because I played.
Yeah, an enchantment for 5. Each skeleton you control has trample, attacks each combat fable, and gets +X+0, where X is the number of other skeletons you control. And then at the beginning of your end step, you create a tapped 1/1 black skeleton creature token. It's like morbid. If somebody died that turn, you get 2 instead. So, like, if you're running skeletons, which before the set, honestly, there really aren't that many. It's hard to do like a skeleton tribal situation. This makes it a little more viable.
Because suddenly you have 5 skeletons and they're all 6/1, or 5 skeletons, 6/1s.
Yeah, and like you could easily do something to kind of assist that in like popping off faster,
I have played this card, and one of the issues is the fact that they have to attack every single combat. You either have to like tap them down to stop them from attacking, or like attack someone who like, oh, I killed your thing, and then you're open, so I attack. But like, so the first round, like these aren't that scary because it's like, oh, you got 2 of them, and so they're like 4/1s. But then the next round, 6/1s. Now we're talking. Yeah. And then when they're all 8/1s, that's a big deal.
Yeah. For me, the ones that I'm really happy with are actually the like main heroes, like the mainstays of Forgotten Realms, where like Dristord, I've loved using him. Bruno Battlehammer, fan-freaking-tastic. I love his ability of the first time you would pay an equipment cost on a turn, it's free. I've used that in so many jacked up ways already, and I love it. I do like Farida. Farida is really good. Delina and Krydle. Krydle, I love his, if a creature, whenever you attack, you can pay 2 and a creature becomes unblockable.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
It's so good. But my favorite of all, Minsk. My boy Minsk right there. Yeah. The fact that he comes out and you get Boo.
So
It's so good.
Minsk and Boo made me realize how little I actually know about, like, full D&D lore because I got a hamster and I love him and I did not know this man was a character and I'm angry.
Oh, let me enlighten you. I'm going to enlighten everyone here who may not know. Minsk the Mighty is the best person ever.
I've known him for a week, and if anything would happen to him,
I don't know if you know, Boo's not just a hamster.
He's a giant space hamster.
He's a miniature giant space hamster. Yeah, no, I have a pop figure of Minsk. I love Minsk. I have already have plans in the work to make him a commander.
I already made a commander deck.
Yes!
So I will say, so I've only played one game with it. The one thing that kind of bums me out, and I get why they did it this way, is that his ability only activates as a sorcery.
Yeah.
Which super limits the things that you can do with him.
Yeah, because I think we were planning on, like, oh, you attack and then pump or something like that, or pump on your opponent's turn.
It has to be ahead of time. You can't do it on your opponent's turn. Like, I'm running Esper Sentinel in that deck because that's great. But, like, the issue is that only really protects me from people, like, counterspelling my stuff on my turn, because I can only buff the Esper Sentinel at sorcery speed. I can't be like, and on the beginning of your turn, blue player, I am going to buff the Esper Sentinel to 20. But, like, I've been fussing around with him. I put in a bunch of the giant tribal cards from Kaldheim because I'm not running giant tribal, but he can make anything a giant, so I can still take advantage of it. And then I've been messing around with cards that'll be like, when this attacks, make other creatures equal to its power and toughness, because then I can pseudo-copy the ability. He takes a bit more work, though. I love him for the flavor, though. I like that hamsters are now a thing in D&D and in D&D and Magic. They were a thing in D&D. Anything's a thing in D&D.
It's true.
But Wizards, if you're listening, and if Hamster Tribal is not possible by this time next year,
there will be consequences.
Hamster and Otter Tribal, you have set the precedent. You need to deliver.
But yeah, those are the cards that really stand out for me.
So I have one. Sphere of Annihilation.
Oh, God.
I like this one.
If I could ever get that and a Sirac out in the same turn, I'm going to be so happy.
Okay, so a Sphere of Annihilation costs a black and X. So it comes onto the battlefield, and you just put a certain number of counters onto it. It does nothing for one round. And then at the start of your turn, then it just destroys everything that has a converted mana cost, the amount that you paid into it or less. And it even, here's an interesting thing, is it goes through the graveyards as well. So it destroys creatures in graveyards as well. So when I played it in Standard, I kind of wasn't happy because I'd be like, oh, I'm on my last legs, they're beating on me. And so I play Sphere of Annihilation, and then they kill me on their turn or something like that. Or I board wipe, but like, they see that it's coming. Or sometimes they'll just like disenchant. I'm like, okay. Because it's like, it sits on the board for a round before it destroys everything. One of the big advantages, is because it's graveyard hate, because it pulls stuff in the graveyard. Second advantage is it board wipes at the start of your next turn, meaning that, it board wipes everything, and then you get a turn. Yeah. So and that's like a big deal, because then you can, most of the time you tap out, you use player thing, and then everyone gets a turn, and then you can like assemble. This is Sphere of Annihilation. And then you wait, and then you get a full turn. Yeah. So you're the first person to start assembling.
Yeah, because normally you've sunk so much mana into the board wipe, if it's a sorcery speed board wipe, that everyone's still like, they're balanced in such a way that, like, yeah, you board wiped, but everybody else gets to build back before you do. But this one, like any of the instant speed board wipes, that's why they're so good. Is you deny them that ability to build back before you can.
That being said, I don't see this getting that much play because people can destroy it.
Yeah, the fact that it's telegraphed, definitely. But, like, I think that's fine. Like, there should be more cards like that are, like, fair. And you should normalize playing,
But I know it's got a black in it, but, like, if you play a control-heavy blue-black deck, like, not only because you, like, tap down things to, like, make sure or to try and get that next turn or counterspell and stuff, but also, like, if you were able to play, like, Time Walk. It's just like, I take an extra turn after this.
Or you run one of my favorite cards that I talked about in the other Magic the Gathering episode, Sphinx of the Second Sun, who gives you an upkeep at the end of your turn.
That's true.
But then that kind of undoes the benefit of
you starting.
That's sort of just, you might as well play Damnation at that point.
Yeah, you might as well just play Damnation.
But it's still cool.
Yeah, it is. It's a thorough sitting board wipe and graveyard wipe. I think it's a really cool card, honestly, and it's one that I want as well.
It is kind of fun to have those moments at the table when there is a very clear and imminent threat that everybody needs to deal with. When the one player has the Nevinrall's disc on the board, or when I have cast Approach of the Second Sun.
Yeah,
just
fun
when
for
there's like
everyone.
when there's a thing that you're like, this is gonna be bad unless we do something. It's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think there's a card, and this would be for Commander format, that gives artifacts flash.
Yeah,
and it'd be really funny to
Shimmering
flash that out at the end of someone's turn.
Oh,
Yeah. You could totally do that.
yeah, Sphere of Annihilation.
And Shimmer Mirror's colorless. Just goes in any deck.
Oh, one other one. I just remembered.
Vorpal.
The one, Vorpal Sword.
Yes!
Vorpal Sword. Pay a black 2 to equip. Equipped creature gets +2/+0 and has Death Touch. And for 8 mana, until end of turn, Vorpal Sword gains. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, that player loses the game.
I love it. I love it.
Literally cut their head off.
There are definitely more efficient ways to win the game, but
It's fun.
yeah.
I just wanna beat somebody. But with having this on the field, the best part is just like they see it. They know what it is. It's very much like that Sphere of Annihilation or like Door to Nothingness, where it's like, you're gonna try and cut my head off, aren't you? Oh, I'm cutting your head off. Unless you could stop me. Your head's coming off. It's gonna roll on the ground, baby. What are you gonna do about it?
So one of my favorite cards that I have also built a deck around is the Deck of Many Things. Because it is a very janky win con.
I killed myself with it and I'm really happy.
In D&D?
No, in Magic.
Did you bring back your own creature?
I had Mordecai and switch out my hand with my deck, and then I played Deck of Many Things just for the lulz.
Oh, and okay. So it's you pay 2 and tap it, and then you roll a d20, and you subtract the amount of cards in your hand. On a 1 to 9, you return a random card from your graveyard to your hand. On a 10 to 19, you draw 2 cards, and on a nat 20, which is only possible if you have no hand, you pull a creature from your opponent's graveyard. And it's on your battlefield, and it has, when this creature dies, its owner loses the game. So you have to roll a nat 20 with no hand if you're playing a standard 4-person commander game 3 times.
I forgot that clause that you have to subtract the cards in your hand.
So you have to do it with no hand.
The thing is, when we were playing the other day with you, you kept saying, "Oh, I have no hand," and then you'd like roll a d20. I'm like, okay,
yeah,
like,
no,
okay,
but I have to have no hand in order to make it work.
I forgot that stipulation that you can only win the game if you have this thing out. They have a thing. They're attacking you. You then block with it. You have to roll a 20, and also that you have to have no hand.
Yeah,
I do really like it thematically.
But the way I like playing it though is I always, because you can activate it at instant speed. I just leave it open, and then if somebody attacks me, I'm like, cool, I'm activating the deck, and there's just I haven't done it yet. I have not killed anybody with the Deck of Many Things yet. I've tricked the deck out. I have things that copy the deck's ability. I have things that let me discard at instant speed.
Barbarian class.
I have Barbarian class, and I have Strionic Resonator, so I can be a double Barbarian. Like, and it has a bunch of, and the deck has a bunch of tutors, which normally I don't like running a lot of tutors, but in this case, because I'm trying to build this stupid Rube Goldberg machine of winning with dice, it's fine.
Yeah.
Like, I just love the concept of somebody swings at me, and I'm like, cool, I'm going to go ahead and just roll 9 dice, and if any of them are a 20, I'm going to grab a creature from your graveyard, and I'm going to block with it, and you are going to kill yourself. Like, I love that concept.
Mm-hmm.
It's so stupid, but I want to make it work.
I thought it was just pull a creature from the graveyard, but then I forgot, like, oh, you gotta have no card. You gotta be...
Yeah. But that's the other thing, because you were talking about with the Vorpal Sword, is like, oh, you know that you're going to die. It's like, does somebody risk attacking me? Because they know that's what I would do, and yes, I have to roll the 20, and that's not guaranteed, but do you want to take that chance?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. It's okay. Like a subtle threat.
Another thing is that, so I'm going to say we have 10 more minutes, and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay.
So this is kind of like closing stuff, and then in addition, like anything else that you guys want to talk about, because also one other card is Volo.
Yeah.
Volo was super cool.
I liked the I really like when we did our little draft. I pulled him for my commander, and you guys murdered me first, but I took that as you acknowledging that I was the most dangerous person at
correct.
the table, which is really flattering when you think about it.
Well, I mean, it was like first we had Asmodeus, and then Volo, and then like you guys clearly saw that I was the threat on the table, and that's why I had the lowest life point.
You playing Asmodeus in the
20 life.
in the 20 life format, going down to
7
4.
cards, all 8 of them in my hand.
Yeah.
Basically, so also the summary for everyone else was that Asmodeus, you can pay 3 to draw 7 cards, but the thing is that they go into exile and you have to pay 1 life to get them, and so you're basically paying 7 life to draw 7 cards. And with 20 life,
you did not draft enough life gain to make that a thing that was good to do.
There was none. There was none in my deck.
But no, my Volo deck actually was pretty good because, legitimately, even though I got knocked out first, it definitely felt like one of those games where I got knocked out because if I was not taken care of, I would have been a problem. Because he copies spells as long as they don't match the same creature type as any other creatures on the field or in your graveyard, which I heard some people saying that that's not actually that big of a drawback, but it really is because, for starters, it means that you can play, if you're using him as your commander, you can play no humans or wizards because he is a human wizard.
Oh, God.
So unless you...
No, it's encouraging you to literally build Volo's Guide to Monsters.
Yes.
That's what I love about it.
It's cool. But the other fun thing that I really like about Volo is you can play him with shapeshifters. Because when you play a shapeshifter, Volo will be like, oh, hey, it's a shapeshifter. You don't have one of those on the field. And then it hits the field, and then it becomes whatever you're copying. And so you're going to cast another shapeshifter later, and Volo's going to be like, oh, cool, a shapeshifter. I don't see any of those on the field because your shapeshifter that you played is no longer one. You only really need to worry about getting them out of your graveyard.
What it is. Some things stay as a shapeshifter, so it depends on which ones you're using.
Yeah, but most of them
could be really good.
Most of them change their creature type. So the main thing you need to worry about is ways to control your graveyard so that, when they die, they will be shapeshifters in the graveyard. But there's a lot of, escape cards and things that you can do that will exile stuff from your graveyard. So if a shapeshifter ever goes there, you can get rid of it. But that's definitely a way you can abuse Volo. But yeah, when I was playing him, the fact that I could just be like, I'm getting copies of everything that I'm casting, it's great.
It was disgusting.
I loved him.
It was so bad.
I haven't actually pulled a copy of him because we were only playing with your cards. So
yeah.
But I think I'm either going to buy a copy or hopefully pull one. I'm probably going to a draft this weekend. So crossing my fingers, I totally want a copy of him.
Okay.
Last thing that I have about the says, I freaking love it. I genuinely think that they did a great job catching the theme of D&D, meshing it with Magic, and it feels good. So much so that I genuinely hope they do another one of these sets sometime soon, because I mean, I may not buy the next Magic set, but I would 100% buy that one, because if it's as fun as this, I'm in.
Yeah, definitely.
The thing that interests me is, I would definitely like to come back to this too, but, so Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, took over the slot for the core set this year. And normally the core set's a very generic, it doesn't have a story, it's not set on any one specific plane, and it's kind of the introductory set. And I do hope that they don't do we're only going to be doing we'll make the summer set the D&D set and stop doing core sets, because they've done that before and I heard it was bad. It happened when I wasn't playing Magic. But the thing that's nice about core sets is they can reprint cards from anywhere because it's setting agnostic. It's cards from all over the Magic multiverse. And they can make new cards set anywhere, so they don't have to worry about when we're getting another Ravnica set or when we're going back to Theros. They can print another big creature or big player from this one plane that we haven't been to in a while and that we're not going to go to again. So I would hope that, D&D comes back, but I don't want it to be now every summer set is the D&D set.
I don't think they would do that, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, this is very experimental. I don't know where this is going to lead them, but I do think that this is going to be one of the biggest successes that they've seen in a while, because I know personally a lot of Dungeons and Dragons fans that I know and talk with are getting into Magic because of this set. Like, this is bringing in a lot of new people into Magic the Gathering.
Like, I just want to play with Lilith. Like, Lilith is cool.
I literally, almost every person in my circle of, like, Twitter mutuals who does not play Magic the Gathering but is really into D&D has bought at least 5 packs already.
Yeah.
It's
Like one of my friends, I don't think he's ever even played Magic, bought an entire collector's box today.
oh god.
Yeah, like he went all in on. I'm like, good for you, man.
I advocate set boosters over collector's boosters.
Yeah,
but
that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah, definitely. No, yeah, it's definitely. I remember hearing some of the more jaded people talking about how, like, man, I hate that they're doing all the crossovers because, like, the other crossover stuff didn't like bring in new players, and it's like they didn't bring in new players because they were secret layers that were like 4 cards. They were just collector's pieces.
Oh man, you're telling me the Walking Dead audience didn't know about this super like low key extra thing in Magic the Gathering that's really expensive and didn't get them into the game?
Yeah, yeah, because like you're not going to buy the Walking Dead secret layer and then play Magic the Gathering with it. But you can buy a booster box or a commander deck of this and get into Magic the Gathering.
I also have this image in my head of like, oh, Walking Lair fans, and like they're sitting there, they're only playing with just those cards.
Yeah.
Like no other cards.
No, it's also like I've heard the complaint leveraged against the upcoming like Lord of the Rings set and the Warhammer commander decks, and I'm like, those are playable products. Like, talk all you want about whether or not the crossover should be there flavor wise, but those are full products that will get people introduced to the mechanics of Magic the Gathering.
I think it's also just D&D and Magic. They go together so well.
They go together great.
Okay. So, anyway, that's it for us. Thank you guys for being here. Really appreciate it. I appreciate Shane also for being here on the call. That came out weird.
Yeah, Shane gets double appreciated.
Shane and also Trevor and Marcos.
Or is Shane not a person?
Okay.
Is that what you're implying?
So, thank you guys for being here. Appreciate it. Everyone have a good day, and we'll see you around on the next video. Bye! Bye!